Okay. So when you get a statement like this, and it is said that you send the following statement to your correspondent, your understanding should be that you authored the statement. It is your statement of account in respect of the work you have done on behalf of the correspondent. And you are sending this statement of account to the correspondent. What you need to show when it is said that you should record the contents of the statement in your books of account is to demonstrate how you arrived at the statement. You need to show how you arrived at the statement. What guided you in producing this statement of account? So what you will be expected to do here is to look at the statement and then go back to your books of account. In fact, what is required here is for you to look at the statement, study it, and then say, for example, if it is recorded in the statement that in item 1, I paid tracing agent. How did I do it in my books of account? How did that happen? What is reflected in my own books of account? How did I make this payment? So you deal with these aspects as they appear. You deal with these aspects as they appear. For example, number 1, paid tracing agent. How did you pay the tracing agent? And you'll also see it is on the debit side. Now the question to you is, how did you pay the tracing agent? Or when you paid the tracing agent, what did you do in your books of account? What did you do, Squilly? What did you do in your books of account when you paid the tracing agent? What happened in your books of account? Lekalaga.
We
did what? Yes, Squilly?
we credited the business cash book and debited the Vachini Inc. in business cash book.
Exactly. Exactly. Does everybody get this? So you are basically interpreting the statement and your books of account. All right. So obviously, in an exam situation, you find that you only get this statement where it is said that you send the following statement to your correspondent. Please record the contents of the statement in your books of account. So you find that you have not seen the books before, but because you attended a class in legal practitioners bookkeeping, you have also practiced. You will understand that once it is said that I send the following statement to my correspondent, it means I drafted the statement. I did the statement. I did the work. And if it is said in item 1 that I paid tracing agent, I know how to make a payment. And I will be able to credit the business cash book and debit my correspondent in business. And the reason I will go to the business cash book and not the trust cash book is simply that prior to my payment of the tracing agent, there's no mention of any money going into trust. So the assumption should be that at this moment, there is no money in trust. And this is why I will not go to trust. Instead, I will go to business because I know that if I do not have money in trust, I do not pay disbursements from trust. Instead, I pay disbursements from business. And this I do to avoid a deficit in trust. I should not have a deficit. Fine. Can we go to number 2? With number 2, summons fees. And you will see that when you deal with number 2, you will actually also deal with numbers 3, 4, and 5. Can you see when you look at the statement? Can somebody see this? Lakala? Can you see that when you deal with number 2, you also will deal with numbers 3, 4, and 5? Because in number 2, you are dealing with summons fees. Number 3, allowance on the summons fees. Number 4, VAT. Number 5, allowance on the VAT. Can you see that? Can you see? Mzimba?
Yes.
Can you see this? Who's saying yes? Matimulan? Mr. Svavi? Mzimba? So some of you connect and disappear. Yes, Sekwele?
Yes, I can see them.
It seems it's only me and you in this class today. The others have connected and disappeared.
No, I'm here.
That's not true, sir.
No, it is true. You are not entertaining.
Yes,
Yes,
You are not
I
entertaining.
am here.
we're here, sir.
Kompotla, I've been calling you for ages.
We are here, sir.
Were you washing dishes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but you can't wash dishes during class time. It's class and we are in class. We are doing class things. Yeah, we are not ganamming. We are doing class. Right. Yes, I asked something about number 2. We have seen how number 1 is dealt with. So how do we deal with number 2? You've dealt with number 2 very well, but let's deal with number 2.
Okay, sir. Number 2.
Yes, number 2.
The first thing that you must do, you must open your fees journal because it's someone's fee.
Yes.
Yes. Open your fees journal and then write the name of the person that you are charging. In this case,
Yes.
Who are we charging, sir? Give me a name. Are we charging Tatan?
No. Say, look at your exercise of Friday.
Oh, Vachini.
Yes. Okay,
Yes.
fine. Let us, for illustration purposes, let us start with number 1. Sequeli in number 1 said we pay the tracing agent from the business cash book. And I agree with her. Do you see my business cash book? And then we record on the credit side and we say paid tracing agent 100. And then we opened an account for Vachini Incorporated in business and we debit 100. Our narration is business cash book. Right. Then you say on number 2, we go to fees journal, not so.
Yes, we open our fees journal.
Fees journal, and you say we will record Vachini Inc. followed by
Yes.
fees and VAT. This way.
Fees.
Yes.
Yes.
And
We're going to credit fees of 300.
300, we credit fees. Yes.
Thereafter, we're going to find the VAT of that 300, and then at 15%, it is 45. We're also going to credit VAT there.
We credit VAT of 45. Yes.
We combine them together, they give us 345. Then we debit.
Yes. We add them, we add the fees and the VAT, and we get 345, which we debit our correspondent.
Yes.
And then
we're going to narrate this transaction. We're going to narrate it, someone's fee plus VAT at 15%.
someone's fees plus VAT at 15%. Yes. Excellent.
Yes.
Now we must.
Oh, now we must find 1/3 allowance of this.
And this is Somo, ne? Mr.
Yeah,
Somo.
Yes.
We harameditse go fitlhela fa. E re kwe bangwe.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right. Monyene, take us further. Can somebody take us further?
Yes.
Yes. Who is that? Tlaka. So you are also here, Tlaka?
Yes, I'm also here.
Excellent. Please take us further.
From there, we transfer everything to ledgers.
We post everything to ledgers.
Yes.
Tlaka?
Yes, sir.
I agree with you. From here, we post everything to ledger. And what did we say about posting transactions from a journal to ledgers?
Everything remains the same. What is debited remains debited. What is credited remains credited.
Excellent. Excellent. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. What is credited remains credited, and what is debited remains debited. We post these transactions just as they are. Excellent. Let us do that. Let us do that.
Sir?
What do we do? Yes.
I'm so sorry, my battery died while we were at the fees journal. Can you kindly please recap what we recorded on the fees journal?
It died whilst we were at the fees journal.
Yes.
Fine. Remember, at the fees journal, we were dealing with someone's fees, not so?
Yes.
Right. Which is item 2 on the statement of account, not so?
Yes.
Right. And do you remember that I said to you, item 2 prompts you to deal with it up until 5. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Because Items 2, 3, 4, and 5 deal with the same thing. You are dealing there with the summons fees plus VAT and their allowances. Do you get that? Fine.
Yes.
Then we open the fees journal. Do you see my fees journal on the board?
Well, it's blurry, but I can follow you.
Fine. Then we came to our fees journal where we recorded our correspondent, Bachini Inc., and then followed by fees and VAT.
Okay.
You get that?
Yes.
Right, right. Then we credited fees with 300 because it has already been given on the statement. It is set to be 300. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Right. Then we determined VAT at 15%.
The VAT.
And we got how much?
45.
We got 45, which we credited on the fees journal. Do you see?
Okay.
Then we added the fees and the VAT together to give us 345. Do you see?
Yes.
And then we debited our correspondent with the total of the fees and the VAT being 345.
Okay.
We debited Bacini with 345.
Okay.
We then narrated the transaction by saying someone's fees plus VAT at 15%. Is it making sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Right. Then from here,
Sir,
yes.
the board is really not clear at all.
Okay. I'll connect to another network quickly, and it will be very clear in a short while. Is it still the same?
Yes,
Still the same.
yes.
It's VAT.
Can't see anything.
And how is it now?
It's still blurry, sir.
Unyamalele ka Friday ke nyaka we file. Tabo. Can you see anything now?
No, sir.
No.
Yeah.
How did we do it on Friday? Because we don't seem to have had challenges on Friday. And I doubt if it is still okay. Okay, now let me get this. Is it everybody who does not see? Sidibe, can you see?
And on my side, it turns blurry and turns clear. So I'm not sure about the others because it was just clear right now, and then now it's now blurry. So, but I feel like if we can follow you, then we can just continue.
Yes. I think so too. Because the problem is you may find that it's actually network on your side and not necessarily on my side or my screen. Shasha, what do you see?
It's blurry on my side.
It's also still blurry on my side, sir.
Kokota, on your side, what do you see?
It's blurry, sir.
Laka?
It's blurry.
It's blurry. Ragedi?
It's blurry, sir.
It's also blurry.
Yes, it
I
is.
see. Okay. Okay, but can we, conclude this one exercise?
Yes, sir, because I
Yes.
think we can follow from our previous exercise.
Yes, with you following, but you may need to record it somewhere. so that when you practice these two types,
Mm-hmm.
you know which is which and you know which one is which.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. So this statement, have it
Sir,
on
before
both.
you,
Yes.
sir, before you
Yes.
move forward, sorry to disturb you. Is it possible, may I suggest that you send, you also send a peek so as to compare the information we'll be jotting down?
I'm going to
and
do that. I'm going to do that.
Thank you so much. Sir.
I'm going to do that. All right. Let's proceed then. Where were we? Where were we?
We were transferring the summons fees and VAT to journals,
We
to
were
ledgers,
posting.
to ledgers, yes.
We were posting. Tlaka,
Yes, sir.
we were posting and not transferring them.
Yes, sir.
Right. So, Bachini, what do we do?
We debit the fees plus VAT, which is 345
Where?
on the debit side.
Of?
Virginia Incorporated in Business.
Right. 345, we debit, and our narration is
Fees plus VAT.
fees plus VAT. Is that all we do?
No,
No. What else do we do?
we open a fees account in business.
We open fee account in business. Yes.
We credit Virginia Inc., which is 300.
300.
With the
And
narration fee. Virginia Inc.
Bachini Inc. Yes.
Then
What else?
we open an output VAT.
We open an account for VAT. Output, yes.
We credit 45 Rand with the narration being Vatini Inc.
We credit 45 and narration is Bachini Inc.
Yes.
Yes. Is that all? Is that all we do? Right. So we are done with part of 2 to 5. Then now we must give an allowance, not so?
Yes.
And from looking at the statement, you can see the rate at which an allowance was given, not so? Allowance was given at the rate of 1/3. So it means we will have to divide our figures by 3 to determine the 1/3. And when we give 1/3, what did we say we do? How do we record the transactions?
On the fees journal, whatever was on top now goes to the bottom.
Okay. And how do we do this?
So we first start off by writing fees.
Yes.
And then VAT.
VAT.
And then Vachini Inc.
Bachini Inc.
Yes. And then you're going to debit fees.
Debit fees with how much?
With 100 Rand.
How did you get it?
I divided it by 3. I divided the 300 divided by 3.
Yes. What else?
And then you debit VAT with 15 Rand. It's 45 divided by 3.
Debit VAT with 15 Rand. Yes.
Yes. And then you credit Vachini Inc.
You credit Vachini Inc.
Yes, with 115.
115, yes.
And then your narration is going to be a quarter allowance of summons fees plus VAT at 15%.
1/3 allowance
of summons fees plus VAT at 15%.
on someone's fees plus VAT at 15%.
Yes.
And then we underline the narration.
Yes.
From here, where do we go, Tlaka?
We post to ledgers.
We post to ledgers. You will no? Right. And how do we post to ledgers?
We
Post
credit
as is.
As is. And what is as is? Fees, what do we do?
sir.
Yes, what do we do?
Isn't it I don't know, but isn't it better if we start with the order of the ledgers? Like if we
It's
I
fine.
understand.
It's fine.
Okay, so we can start with Bachini, even though in the journal he was at the bottom, right? Okay, so it means we will have to credit Bachini in business.
With how much?
With 115.
Narration.
1/3 allowance.
Does everybody understand this? Ragedi? 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 Sidibe?
Yes, sir. Can you please explain that?
What?
So right now we are dealing with the 1/3 allowance, right?
Yeah, we're posting to ledgers. We're posting these transactions to ledgers. On the 1/3 allowance, yes, we have already recorded the 1/3 allowance, and then we are posting to ledgers. Do you follow? And remember that when we post transactions from a journal to ledgers, we do not change anything. What is debited remains debited, and what is credited remains credited. Not so.
Yes.
So if you look at the fees journal there, you will see that your fee account is debited, your VAT account is debited. And then your Vachini Inc. is credited. Do you see? So that is what we will do. So the principle is when you post from the journal to ledgers, you do not change anything. So this is what we are doing, and what Sukokotla suggested is that when we are posting, we can still start from Bachini Inc. by crediting, and then we will debit fees and VAT later. Do you get it?
Yes.
Although there is nothing wrong with you starting with fees followed by VAT and Bachini Inc. For as long as at the end of the day, you have done on the ledgers what is done on the journal. Do you follow? Right. Then fees, what do we do?
We are going to debit the fees with 100 rand.
We will debit the fees with 100 rand. And our narration will be
Bachini Inc. 100.
Bachini Inc. 100. And what else?
We are going to credit VAT output.
Yes. Credit.
Yeah. No, debit. Sorry.
How much?
15.
15. Narration.
Virginie Inc.
Virginie Inc. 15. Is that all?
Yes.
So where do we go now? We go back to the statement, not so.
Yes.
To see transactions we have not attended to. And what are those? What are we going to deal with now? What are we going to deal with?
Number 6.
Number 6, yeah.
Sir.
Hello.
Sir,
Yes.
were we not supposed to credit the 115?
Eh?
I'm asking if we were not supposed to credit the 115.
Oh, we did. We started with it.
Oh, okay.
We started with it. 115 on Virginie Incorporated in business. We started with it. So can we go to number 6 now?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. What do we do there? What do we do at number 6?
Credit the business cash book 150.
What are we doing? What does that mean? What is that instruction there on number 6? What is the instruction given there?
Paid sheriff 150.
Paid sharing 150. Where do we go?
We credit the business cash book
Why business
150.
cash book? Why business cash
We don't
book and
have money in the
not
trust cash book.
eh?
We don't have money in the trust cash book.
Yes, we do not have money in our trust cash book. We do not have money in our trust cash book. So we will go to the business cash book. The same business cash book, not so. We credit the business cash book and we record paid sheriff 150. Is that all we do?
No.
What else do we do?
We debit Virginia Inc.
We debit Virginie Inc. with how much?
150.
With 150. Narration,
Business cash book.
business cash book. So what else do we do now? Where do we go from here? We are done with number 6. Where do we go?
Number 7.
We go to number 7. What do we deal with at number 7?
We open a trust cash book.
Yes. What prompts us to open a trust cash book, Malava?
Because the cash is now received. It says this number 7
Because we
says
are receiving cash.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And why does it go to trust and not to business?
We haven't got any instruction on what we should do with the money yet.
It is not our money.
Yes.
So we go to trust. I agree with you. Let's go to trust. Right. Trust cash book. Yes. What do we do there?
We debit cash receipt 3,000. Yeah.
So we debit the trust cash book and we say Bachini Inc. 3,000. Yes. We debit the trust cash book and our narration is Bachini Inc. 3,000. What else do we do?
We must credit by Genie. Open
Credit,
another account for Genie in trust.
open an account for Bachini in trust.
We
Yes,
credit by Genie.
we
3,000.
credit Bachini with how much? Narration,
3,000 trust cash book.
trust cash book, 3,000. Yeah. Is that all we do?
Yeah.
In so far as number 7 is concerned, not so. Then where do we go?
Number 8.
We go to number 8. And what is happening there at number 8?
The collection commission.
Collection commission. Where do we record this collection commission?
The journal.
In the journal. Which journal? Is it the trust journal or is it the fees journal?
The trust journal.
The
No,
fees
the
journal.
fees.
So we will record this on the fees journal, and the reason we record it on the fees journal is that collection commission is a fee, not so.
Yes.
Yes.
Collection commission is a fee. So we will record it on the fees journal. So we will record Machini Inc. fees VAT. Not so.
Yes.
Right. How much is our fee?
It's 300.
300. Debit or credit?
Credit.
We
Credit.
credit fees. We credit fees 300. And how did we get this fee of 300?
So it's the 10% of the money.
It's 10% off
3,000.
of 3,000. 10% of the money we have collected. VAT
That is 45. No,
for
yeah,
debit or credit?
a credit.
Credit. Is that all we do?
No,
What else?
we add
We add, and what do we get?
345.
345. What do we do with the 345?
We debit Bachini Inc.
We debit Bachini with 345. Is that all?
No, we have to post it to the ledgers.
We have to post. No. Do you post without narrating?
Oh, sorry. Collection commission at 15% VAT.
Collection commission plus VAT at 15%. And you underline. Is that all you do?
I think we can now take it to the ledger.
We can now post to ledger.
Yes.
And how do we do this?
We have to go to Bajini in business.
Yes.
And debit Bajini.
Yes.
And narrate fees plus VAT.
Fees plus VAT.
345.
345. What else?
And then we go to fees.
We go to fees.
And we credit.
We credit.
And we narrate Bajini Inc. and then 300.
Bachini Inc. 300.
Yes.
Is that all?
We go to VAT.
We go to VAT.
And
what do?
We credit VAT.
We credit VAT.
And we narrated by Bajini Inc. 45.
Bachini Inc. 45. Are we done?
Yes.
Yes. Is this the end of the transaction?
Oh yeah, we can.
One third allowance.
Is this the end of the transaction?
The 1/3 allowance.
1/3 allowance. How do we deal with it?
We go to the journal.
We go back to the fees journal. And what do we do there?
Fees.
Yes.
VAT.
Yes.
Bajini.
Yes. And then?
And then we debit, but we debit fees.
Yes.
With 100.
With 100. Where does it come from?
From dividing 300 by 3.
Yes. What else?
We debit VAT.
Yes.
And it comes from dividing 45 by 3.
Yes.
And then we credit Bajini with 150.
Yeah, but what is this VAT? After dividing 45 by 3, what do you get?
We get 15.
Yes. Yes, and then where do you go?
We have to credit Bajini.
Credit Bachini
With 115.
with 115. Yes.
And then narration.
Narration.
1/3 allowance.
1/3 allowance.
On collection commission.
On collection commission.
Plus VAT at 15%.
Plus VAT at 15%. Yes.
And then we post to the ledgers.
We post to ledgers. Are the others still with us? Ready?
I believe they are.
I'm here, sir. I'm just struggling a bit since I came late and I'm not actually seeing what's happening, but I believe I will recap from what you will send to the group. But I'm just listening and noting some points.
Okay. All right.
We are here, sir.
You are here.
Yeah, we are here.
And who are you?
I'm Schovela.
Oh, Sukhovela.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So you see me, but I can't see you.
Yeah, I'm invisible.
I see. Excellent. Excellent. Let us proceed. I'm going to send this to you via Mzimba Wale Shubuga. Right. So from here, where do we go?
To the ledgers.
To the ledgers. And what do we do at the ledgers?
We can start with Vagini.
Yeah, but that method, Skokotla, seems to be confusing others, ne?
Okay, we can start with fees.
Yes, let's deal with the order as is.
Okay, sir.
Yes. All right. Fees.
And then we debit the fees
With
with 100.
narration.
Vagini Inc.
Yes.
100.
Yes.
And then we go to VAT
We go to VAT.
and we debit
We debit. Yes.
and we narrate Vagini
Machine Inc. Yes.
with 15.
With 50.
Yes.
And then
We go to Vagini in business
Bachini in business.
and we credit
We credit
and narrate 1/3 allowance 115.
1/3 allowance 115. Yes. And then
We are done.
we are done. Are you sure? Are we
Yes.
done with the whole question?
With this specific one.
This specific one, number 8.
Yes.
All right. So where do we go now? We're about to finish. Just 2 things and we are done. Where do we go now?
The balance.
Yeah. And which specific account? Once we are satisfied that we have done our work, what then do we do? What do we do after being satisfied that we have done our work? We need payment, not so.
Yes.
And where is the money that should pay us?
On Vagini Inc. business.
That is the debt, not so.
Yes.
But where is the money held?
Trust. Vagini
In
Inc. Trust.
In the trust.
Right.
Yes.
What are the 2 things that I said you must do on Friday before you can transfer? What are the 2 things you do?
You must check whether there are available funds in Vagini Trust before you can do the transfer.
There are 2 things you must do. What are those? Mention both of them.
Determine firstly how much is due to you by balancing your client's account in business.
Yes. And who's this? Is this Ragedi or Taka?
Tlaka.
Right. Yes, I agree with you, Taka. First, determine how much is due to you. And number 2?
Check how much your client has in trust.
Check how much your client has in trust. And how do we determine what is due to us?
You balance your client's account in business.
Yes. Yes. So, yes, our correspondence account in business, what is due to us? You will obviously start by comparing between the two sides to check which one of them is higher than the other in value. And when you look at them, it is obvious that the debit side is higher than the credit side, not so. Because as you can see here, there are about 4 items of higher values. And on the credit side, there are just 2 amounts of less value. What is the total of the debit side?
940. 940.
940.
Yes.
Can somebody confirm this?
Yes, it's 940, sir.
940 minus the credit side?
It's 710.
710. Does everybody get this?
Yes.
So
Yes.
everybody gets 710.
Yes.
So this 710 is what is due to you, not so.
Yes.
Right. Is it available in the trust account? Go to your client's account in trust. Is it available?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
How much do you have in trust?
3,000.
3,000. So you can transfer. Let us open a new page here for us to transfer. And what book do you use to transfer?
A transfer journal.
Transfer journal.
Yes.
Right. From whose account in trust to whose account in business are you transferring?
Bachini Trust and Bachini Business. Bachini in Business.
So you will record Bachini Inc. in trust, and below you will record Bachini Inc. in business. Then you will debit Bachini Inc. in trust with 710 and credit Bachini Inc. in business with 710.
Yes.
What else do you do?
Have to narrate.
You narrate. And what do you say in narrating?
Transfer of fees
Transfer of fees,
plus VAT at 15%
VAT at 15%,
and disbursements.
and disbursement. And you underline. Are we done? Are we done with this? So from here, where do we go?
To
Where
the
do we
ledger.
go from here?
We post to the ledgers.
We post to the ledgers. Bachini Inc., what do we do? In trust.
We have to credit.
Eh?
You have to debit.
Debit Bachini Inc. in trust, not so.
Yes.
And what do we say in narrating?
Transfer of fees.
Bachini Inc. in business, not so.
Oh.
Sir?
Yes.
Can I ask?
Yes.
Don't we have to illustrate the fact that the money is going out of the trust account to the business account. That is, we have to credit the trust account to show that the money is leaving.
We'll do that after posting.
Oh.
Remember, that is the final step of transfer.
Because I was looking at the fact that in the journal, it shows that we took money from the trust account to the business account.
Yeah. And then after that, we will credit the trust cash book and debit the business cash book.
Okay.
But we start with a transfer journal where we show the accounts involved.
Okay.
To show from whose account specifically funds are taken and to whose account specifically in business are funds transferred.
Okay.
Then Bachini, in business, what do we do? We have debited Bachini in Inc. in trust. And what do we do to Bachini Inc. in business?
You credit.
We credit. With how much?
710.
Narration. Bachini Inc. in trust.
Ebo, je kgopela o tlo tima e fresh name.
Bachini Inc. in business, we credit, and our narration is Bachini Inc. in trust. So this way, we have recorded on the transfer journal, but money has not left the trust account for the business account. In order to effect the transfer, we will have to take out money from the trust account by crediting the trust cash book and debiting the business cash book. So we will go to the trust cash book, and on the credit side, we will record transferred to business cash book.
Oh, so this is the step that you were talking about.
Yes. 710. And then we come to the business cash book, and what do? We debit. And we say X plus cash book. 710. So this way, we have transferred 710 from trust to business. Do you follow?
Yes.
So the final thing or the last thing to do in order to gather full marks for a question like this is to do what? There's just one thing left. What is it? If you look at the statement, there's one thing left. What is it?
To balance.
No.
Balance Bachini trust.
Yes, and then do what? According to what number 12 says.
Pay EFT.
We pay. Do you get it?
Yes.
And who do we pay?
Pay Virginie.
Bachini. The money that is remaining in the trust account must go to our correspondent. It is not our money. You follow? And how much is remaining? How much is remaining in the trust account?
2,290.
How did you determine that?
It's there on number 2.
Yeah?
It's 3,000 minus 710.
Excellent. Then we pay Bachini. How do we pay? How do we pay Bachini?
We credit Bachini interest.
We credit Bachini.
No, we did credit trust
cash book.
My God.
We credit the trust cash book and say paid Bachini in trust. How much? 2290. After crediting the trust cash book, what else do we do?
Debit Virginia interest.
We debit Wakini in trust with the same amount, 2290, and our narration is trust cash book. You see?
Sorry, sir. Can you please, before we debit Wajini in first, you said we must first do what?
We first credit the trust cash book. We are taking the money out to pay Vachini.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Then we say paid Vachini in trust, 2290.
Okay. Okay.
And then we can close this account because it has been settled, not so. $3,000. $3,000. Right. Zimba, can you share with them? Right. Compare.
Yes, I just did.
Right. Please compare that with what you have recorded in your own books of account. Compare that with what you've recorded in your own books of account.
Oh, look at that, 800 grams. 3.5, 3.5.
Sir,
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
If I'm the instructing attorney in this case,
Mm.
then the receiving attorney will record what we're recording today in his books, right? And when he gives me the statement of account, am I supposed to record what he has recorded in his books?
Sibele Meche.
Sorry?
Sibele Meche.
Sir,
For now, do not confuse yourself. For now, concentrate on you being the attorney who does the work.
okay.
We will deal with that part shortly after this. Do you follow?
Right. Yeah,
Remember, I said correspondent accounts are divided into two. You have receiving instructions and giving instructions.
Yes.
So this part that we were busy with now is on receiving instruction. It
Okay.
is on receiving instruction. It is just that a question on receiving instructions can be asked in two ways. Do you follow? The,
Yes. Yes.
the first one being what we did on Friday, where you simply just get facts. And the second way is this one, which we just dealt with, where they say you send the following statement to your correspondent. Do you follow?
Yeah.
So, after this one, we are going to deal with an instance where you are the one giving instructions, where you are the instructing attorney. Is it making sense? So
Yes.
we
Makes
are
sense.
going to deal with that, and your questions will be accommodated there.
All
So
right.
for
Thank you,
now,
sir.
ensure that you master this, you understand this. Mzimba, you have a hand.
Yes, I wanted to check. Let's say we're given the statement like in the example that we're dealing with now. Then, how do we tell that a client had no money in trust, or how do we spot it from?
Because when you look at the statement itself, it does not speak about money. Do you see? Do you see
Oh,
that it
yes,
only
yes.
speaks about money towards the end at number 7?
Oh, yes.
Remember also that your statement of account follows the sequence in terms of the dates on which occurrences are recorded.
Yes.
Yes. That is
All
how
right.
you. Yes.
I understand. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Sir,
Yes.
I wanted to ask how many marks does a question like this usually carry?
I said to you on Friday, it carries around 30 marks. So you have
30.
you've got marks for free. It carries about 30 marks. Just for you to do these little things. Do you follow?
Yes, I do. Ish.
Mzimba?
Yes, sir.
Okay. By the way, you were not in the bookkeeping class last year, not so?
Yes, yes. I wasn't, unfortunately.
All right. Skokotla. Skokotla?
Yes, sir.
Right. Skokotla, there are notes I drafted, which I shared with the class last year. Do you have them readily available? Can you distribute them? Or should I send them to you again?
They've already been sent in the group.
Ah, excellent. Excellent. go to those notes. I've simplified steps on on giving instructions, although I still explain receiving instructions there. You will see that I started by explaining receiving instructions, and I even gave a practical exercise there. Okay. Now, quickly go to giving instructions. I'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes for you to go through the notes on giving instructions. But what I am interested in there is for you to go through the steps. You'll see there are steps from 1 to 6. Do you see this?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Let me give you just 3 minutes for you to go through the steps, and we will discuss the steps when you have understanding. I think that I've oversimplified the explanation of the steps there. You should be able to get them right. And I've also given a practical exercise there. Right. I take it that we have gone through the 6 steps there and we understand them, not so? Lukalakala,
Yes, sir.
do we understand the steps?
Yes. But
when you look at the steps, Lukalakala, look at them with a statement that you received from the correspondent. Remember that we said in giving instructions, you have instructed another attorney to be your correspondent. This attorney is doing work on your behalf. After having done the work, the attorney will report to you by sending to you a statement of account. When you receive the statement of account, you will peruse the contents of the statement. You will read the contents of the statement to see what is contained in the statement. And after you have read the statement, you will record the contents of the statement in your own books of account. You will record the contents of the statement in your own books of account. And because this is not a statement that you drafted, you will not enter its contents in your books of account the same way that you do with your own statement. You will see when we dealt with the statement of account that you had sent to the correspondent, you did not need any steps. You simply recorded the transactions as they appeared in the statement. But in giving instructions, you need to follow some steps in order for you to correctly record the contents of the statement in your own books of account. So you need to follow these 6 steps. If you do not follow these 6 steps, it will be very difficult for you to record the contents of the statement from the correspondent. Please know these 6 steps by heart. Know them. Know them. Know them. Let us deal with these 6 steps. The first one deals with the check amount. In the past, we called it the check amount, and this was because, Maila, all right, this was because we were using checks to make payments. But today, we use EFTs. So if I had still written check amount there, you can simply say EFT. I prepared those notes before merchant checks were discontinued. So we know that on 31st of December 2020, checks were discontinued and we are no longer using checks. We are no longer using checks. You will also see on the statement that we did earlier, we said by EFT instead of saying check herewith. So the first thing that you deal with, which is your step number one, is the EFT amount. What is this EFT amount? This is the payment that you are receiving from the correspondent. This amount is reflected in the statement that you are receiving from the correspondent. For practical illustration, you can look at the statement that we dealt with just a few minutes ago. Please treat that statement as if it is a statement you have received from the correspondent. Forget that you drafted it. Forget that you drafted it and simply treat it as if it is a statement that you received from the correspondent. So that is the statement drafted by the correspondent. In order for you to locate the EFT amount, which I say in the past was called check amount, you go to the statement of account that you have received from the correspondent. You will find this amount on the debit side at the bottom. On my board here, it will be this amount. Are you able to identify step number one in the statement of account? Mzimba?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to identify it?
From which?
I said you must look at the statement of account which you have with you there. And you need to treat that statement of account as if it is a statement you have received from the correspondent.
Yes.
Right. A question on giving instructions will normally say to you that you have received the following statement from your correspondent, whom you had instructed in a collection matter. Please record the contents of the statement in your books of account and account fully to your client. So I am saying that statement which you have there, please treat it as a statement that you have received from the correspondent in order for you to clearly understand the steps that we are discussing now. You cannot answer this question. You cannot properly record the contents of the statement without following these steps. So we are dealing with step number 1 here. And step number 1 deals with what I said in the past was referred to as the check amount, which I say today you can simply refer to as EFT amount or payment received. Right. So EFT amount will be found in the statement that you have received from the correspondent. Are you with that statement where you are now? Do you see the statement?
Yes, I can see it.
Right. Are you able to locate the check amount or the EFT amount on the statement?
Yes, I think so.
Where on the statement do you see the EFT amount?
At the last item, number 8.
Is it on the debit side or on the credit side?
On the debit side.
On the debit side.
Yes.
And you say that it is the last item, number 8.
Yes.
Where? On which statement are you looking?
The statement of account.
Which one? Because I see number. Which one are you looking at?
Sorry, I think I had a connection problem. I was looking at the first account that appears there is the statement of account.
Oh, the first statement of account.
Yes.
It's okay. It's okay. All right, fine. Let's use the current one so that everybody is able to follow. Let us use one statement. The one that is on the board now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I missed it. Apologies, sir. I think I missed it. And also there I can see it is item 12 on the one that's.
Yes.
Item 12, yes.
Yes. Yes. Fine. Let us use that one.
Okay, apologies, yes.
Okay. Right. So it is on the debit side. So the EFT amount, which is step number 1, will be found on the debit side of the statement of account. It will be found on the debit side of the statement of account at the bottom there. Do you see that your number 12 is at the bottom of the debit side?
Yes.
That is the first step that you identify and deal with. How do you deal with this? Because it is money which you are receiving, and it is money which does not belong to you. It belongs to your client. Remember, you instructed your correspondent to recover this money on your behalf, but this money belongs to your client. And because it is not your money, it will go to the trust account. So you will go to the trust cash book and debit the trust cash book because you are receiving money. And then you will open an account in trust for the correspondent. Why do you open an account for the correspondent in trust? It is because you have received the money from the correspondent. So this is all you do in your step number 1, where you are dealing with the check or EFT amount. Does it make sense to you? Do you understand this? Zimba?
Yes, thanks. I'm following. You said firstly we create a trust account and debit that amount, and then secondly, I think I missed it when you spoke about. I think we create a trust account. I just want to confirm a trust account, and the name of our client as the instructor.
You open an account for the correspondent.
Oh, okay, not my client.
Okay. Correspondent.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
All right. Then you go to step number 2. In your step number 2, you deal with the collected amount. You deal with the collected amount. And where do you get collected amount? You go back to the statement that you received from the correspondent. Collected is an amount which was collected by the correspondent. You will remember that in this type of transaction, you instructed the correspondent to do the work. So the correspondent did the work and he succeeded in recovering some payment from the debtor. In the statement, the correspondent records the amount that he was able to collect from the debtor. And you will find this on the credit side of the statement that you have received from the correspondent. On the statement that we have or that we are dealing with now, are you able to identify the collected amount? Please identify the collected amount and say it out. How much is it?
3,000.
8,000. How do you know that it is the collected amount? What makes you realize that this is the collected amount?
It is on the credits.
It is ordinarily explained as by cash.
Plata. Ordinarily explained by cash. Right. So That is the collected amount. Collected by the correspondent, but it does not belong to the correspondent, neither does it belong to you. Instead, it belongs to your client. It belongs to your client. When it is accounted to you in the statement, it does not become cash to you. Although when you look at the statement, it says by cash. It was cash when collected by the correspondent. But to you, what is cash is what you have already dealt with in your step number 1. Do you agree? This amount which you deal with in your step number is not cash to you. It was cash when collected by the correspondent. To you, it simply comes as value. It non-cash transaction. And because it constitutes a non-cash transaction, you will not record this amount in any of your cash books. It will not be recorded there because you are not receiving money at this stage. Instead, what you are getting is information of value that was collected by the correspondent. The correspondent collected it, but it does not belong. It also does not belong to you. It belongs to your. So you still need to record this transaction in your books of account, even if it is not cash. Even if it is not cash, you must record it. It is a non-cash transaction, but it guides you. It is through this that you know how much the correspondent collected. You are going to make use of a special book to record this transaction. And that book is called Trust Journal. It is called Trust Journal. A trust journal is used to record the movement of value from one account to another in trust. It is used to record the movement of value from one account to another in trust. A trust journal operates like a, because both these journals vary from one account to another. The difference between these two journals is simply that whilst a trust journal moves value to another, a transfer journal has wide powers because it moves value to business and from business to trust. It can join both trust and business transactions. But a trust journal as the name itself suggests or informs, is limited to trust transactions. You will not find a trust journal in business. You will also not find a trust journal carrying transactions from trust to business or business to trust. No. A trust journal only records movement of value from one account to another in trust. As this becomes the relevance of these is the following. The correspondent collected an amount which you say is 3,000. If you look at the current statement, it is 3,000. Who collected it? The correspondent. And to whom does it belong? Your client. So you will go to a trust journal. It's a journal like any other, but it has a special name, trust journal. So you will go to the trust journal and debit the correspondent. You will debit the correspondent on the trust journal and then credit your client. So you will have a situation like this. Trust journal, debit correspondent, and credit client. With how much? 3,000. Correspondent, debit 3,000, client, credit 3,000. And then your narration will be collected. Do you see? Are you with me, Mulaba?
Yes.
Right.
Sir,
Yes.
can you please repeat the narration?
Collected amount.
Thank you.
And then from here, you remember the principle which says, after recording on a journal, you post to ledgers. So this principle applies throughout. It applies throughout. Just like when you debit, you know you must also credit. And when you credit, you know that you must also debit. Similarly, when you record on a journal, you know you must post. Recording on posting to ledgers. You must know that these transactions go together. When you debit, you must also credit. When you credit, you must also debit. This is the dual entry system of bookkeeping. It applies throughout. It applies throughout. When you use a journal, you also post to ledgers. And when you post transactions from a journal to ledgers, you do not change anything. What is debited remains debited, and what is credited remains credited. So even here, you will have to post to ledgers. And it is important for you to know the relevant ledgers to which you are posting or to which you must post. If the transaction is in trust, the journal is in trust, you must post to trust ledgers. If the journal is in business, you must post to business ledgers. Now tell me, in our case here, with a trust journal, which ledgers are we posting to?
Correspondent interest and client interest.
Yeah, so we will post to trust ledgers. We will post to trust ledgers, being correspondent in trust and client in trust. Then this way you are done with step number 2. You then move to step number 3. Step number 3, as you will see from your notes then, deals with costs. Costs. What are these? These are costs incurred by the correspondent when executing the mandate. These are costs incurred by your correspondent when executing your instructions. In the process of the collection, your correspondent incurred some costs. And these costs have been accounted for in the statement of account that you have received. Tell me, on which side of the statement do you see the correspondence costs?
On the debit side.
On the debit side of the statement. Do you see? So, all those amounts on the debit side, all those amounts on the debit side, all those amounts on the debit side, except what? Except the EFT amount. You see, those will constitute the cost involved. So when you determine the cost involved, please do not include the EFT amount. Why? The EFT amount is not part of the cost. You have already dealt with the EFT amount in your step number 1. Are we together? You've already dealt with the EFT amount. So cost will be all the amount reflected on the debit side of the statement except the EFT amount or the check amount. Add these together. Add these together. Who incurred this cost? Tell me. Who incurred? I've already said it. Who incurred this cost?
The correspondent.
The correspondent incurred this cost. Who is liable?
The client.
The client. Why the client? Because it is your client's instruction to do what? To collect. It is on behalf of your client that you instructed the correspondent to do the work. It is your client who is benefiting from this transaction. Is it making sense? Right. You add the amounts on the debit side The total that you get there is the total of the cost. Using our example here, how much is the total cost?
940.
940. Right. 940. Because these to you are costs and not fees. Remember, these were fees and disbursements when charged by the correspondent. Remember, you are getting this statement from the correspondent. And these are costs which we say were incurred by the correspondent. When the correspondent was recording this, he was actually recording fees and VAT if it's registered for VAT and disbursements. But to us, these are costs incurred. We are not at this stage receiving any money in respect of the costs. Neither are we paying at this stage because these have already been deducted, as the statement says. Do you follow? What we do now is, because we are not receiving, it is also a transaction. And because it is a non-cash transaction, we will record these. We will record these in the trust journal, which is a book we said deals with non-cash transactions which are occurring in trust. It is a non-cash transaction which is occurring in trust. We will record these in the trust journal. So you go back to the trust journal, the same trust journal, and this time around, you debit your client. Remember, with the collected amount, you debited the correspondent and credited the client because you were moving value from the correspondent to your client, showing the fact that the collected amount belongs to your client. This time around, you are dealing with a situation where your client was liable to pay the costs incurred by the correspondent. On the journal, the trust journal, you will debit your client with the total costs and credit the correspondent. Debit your client and credit the correspondent. Your narration will simply be costs. Your narration will simply be costs. And then you post to relevant ledgers. You'll post to relevant ledgers. And this way, you are done with step number 3, which deals with costs. And then you move to step number 4. What does step number 4 deal with? Step number 4 deals with your fees. How do you get your fees? Your fees are made up of the allowances given to you by your correspondent. Your fees are made up of allowances received from your correspondent. On your statement of account, which you received from the correspondent, where do you see your fees reflected? Where do you see your statement, I mean, your allowances reflected? Where do you see your fees?
On the credit side.
On the?
Credit side.
On the credit side. So those amounts reflected on the credit side, except the collected amount. You see?
Yes.
Except the collected amount. Those are fees and VAT due to you. And where do you record this? Where do you record this? On the
Fees journal.
On the fees. You record fees on the fees journal. You record fees on the fees journal. Fees journal.
Sir,
You
I'd like to
record
ask a
on.
question.
Yeah.
Remember you said that allowances are like from a 0 to a whatever rate, I forgot, yeah. So what happens in circumstances where you don't get an allowance?
I don't get your question.
Remember you said that the minimum for that allowance is also 0.
Yes.
So what happens when there's no allowance, like it's on 0 rate?
Then you will not give any allowance, or you will not get any allowance.
Any fees?
0 means nothing.
Okay.
So it means there's no allowance.
Okay.
Yes. Right. How do we record on the fees journal? We will go to the fees journal and we'll ask ourselves this. Who is giving us the allowance?
The correspondent.
The correspondent is giving allowance. And this is the allowance on what? On fees and VAT. You get me? So on your fees journal, you write correspondent, fees, VAT. And then you will determine allowances on fees first, before VAT. You determine allowances on fees, you add them together and credit. Now tell me, in our statement here, how much is the total of our fees as given by the correspondent in the form of an allowance? How much?
230.
230.
Remember, I said to you, determine allowances on fees only. On fees only.
Fees only 200.
How much?
215.
2015.
215.
Listen to me. Determine allowances on fees on
200, sir.
200.
Yes. Yes. What are you getting?
200, sir.
200.
200.
So you will credit fees with 200. Now determine the total allowance on VAT. How much is it?
30.
30.
30.
30. You see? So credit VAT with 30. And then you add the two together and debit the corresponding. How much is the total now on allowances, on fees and VAT?
230.
230. So your narration will be 1/3 allowance received. Do you follow? The reason you say 1/3 allowance received is you simply want to demonstrate that you know what your fees are made up of in correspondent accounts giving instruction. Is it making sense? Right. And then you are done with your step number 4. Step number 5, what do you do?
So we don't post to
In your
ledgers.
step number 4? Yeah, you post to ledgers after recording the fees. Remember, after using a journal, you post to ledgers. If the ledger is in business, you post to business ledgers. If the ledger is in trust, you post to trust ledgers. And then you go to your step number 5. In your step number 5, what do you do?
You transfer fees.
You transfer, not so, in your step number 5.
It is.
Yes. And before you transfer, there are 2 things that I said you must do. Firstly, determine how much is due to you. Secondly, check if it is available in trust.
Yes.
If you are satisfied that what is due to you is available in trust, then you proceed with the transfer process. And you will make use of a transfer journal.
Yes.
In the transfer journal, you will debit correspondent in trust and credit correspondent in business. And then narrate. Your narration will be transfer of 1/3 allowance. Transfer of 1/3 allowance. Then you post to relevant ledgers. Correspondent in trust, the relevant ledger. Correspondent in business, you credit. And then you go to your step number 6. In your step number 6, you account your client now. And when you account to your client, you simply copy the same statement that you received from the correspondent and exclude the following. You will exclude the allowances. In the statement that you direct to your client, you will not record allowances. You will not record allowances. And once you do not record allowances, it will affect your balancing figures at the bottom here. It means you will have different balancing figures. So you adjust them accordingly. And also, the EFT amount, that is the amount you are now paying to your client, will also be different because the balancing figures shall have changed. And that is a statement to your client. Any question?
Sir,
Yes.
can you please repeat step 6?
In step 6, you account to your client. When you account to your client, you copy this same statement of account without allowances. In other words, it is not necessary for your client to see or know the discounts that were given to you by the correspondent. You will draw the statement of account as if you did the work because your client instructed you to do the work anyway. So you will do it as if you did the work. So you exclude the allowances. So in other words, on the credit side, you will only have the collected amount and not the allowances. And because of that, the balancing figures will also change. At the bottom there, instead of 3230, you'll now have 3,000. Do you see? And that will also affect the amount payable to your client. It will not be 2290. It will be a different amount because after recording there, you will compare the difference between, the higher amount between the debit side and the credit side. So this amount will change. It will now be 3,000 minus 940. So the likelihood is that it may be 2,060. Is it making sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now, let us take a practical exercise. Take this statement, this same statement, and record in your own books of account following the 6 steps. Can I give you 10 minutes to do this? Or can we say that it is break time? We come back at 20 past 11. We will do this, or you shall have done it.
So I think we can have breaks, sir.
Yes, let's have break. 20 past 11, and then you'll also discuss with me what you have recorded there. All right, let's meet at
days, and there's about 108 vaccination sites, like where we are, that will be used.
Right. Can we quickly go through this? Let us see what you have been able to do following the steps. Ready? What have we been able to do? Matimulani? Yes. What have we done? Let's start. Step number one, what do we do? What do we do in our step number one? Squilly?
On step number 1, we're gonna deal with that amount, by EFT. We're gonna open a trust cash book and debit it and credit the correspondent interest.
Right. We will open a trust cash book. And what do we do? You say we debit it, not so.
Yes, sir.
And our narration is simply correspond, and the amount we have received is 2290. If we are using the statement that was on the 2290 is the amount receiving and which we are recording on the debit side of the trust cash book. Not so.
Yes,
and then from here, where do we go? After debiting the trust cash book, where else do we go?
Sir,
Yes.
if I may interrupt, which activity are we doing?
Okay. the statement that we were analyzing. Do you see the statement analyzing?
Yes.
Yes. We are recording of that statement which we were analyzing in our books of account.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Right. So after getting the trust cash book, what else do we do?
We credit correspondent interest.
We open an account for correspondent interest and we credit it. What is our narration?
Trust cash book.
And what is the amount?
2,290.
Yes. So we are done with our step number one this way. Do you see? Step number two, what do we deal with? What do we deal with in our step number two?
We deal with the collected amount.
We deal with the collected amount. Where do we get it, and how much is the collected amount?
We get it on item number 7, which is 3,000.
Yes. How do we deal with it?
We're going to debit the correspondent.
Where?
We're gonna
In
do
the client's account, Vagini.
in the trust journal.
We will open a trust journal. Trust journal. And what do we do there?
We debit the correspondent and credit the client.
Debit correspondent and credit client. With how much?
3,000.
With 3,000. Debit correspondent with 3,000 and credit client with 3,000. Is that all?
No, sir.
What do we do?
Narration.
What is our narration?
Collected amount.
Collected amount. Is that all?
No. Then we post to ledgers.
We post to ledgers. Which ledgers do we post to?
Trust ledgers.
Trust ledgers. Why trust ledgers?
Because we were dealing with a trust.
Because we were dealing with trust transactions. So how do we post these transactions?
We post them as is. It is debited as debited.
Correspondent, what do we do?
We debit.
Debit how much?
3,000.
3,000.
Narration.
Collected amount.
Collected amount.
3,000. Is that all?
No.
No.
No. What else do we do?
We
account for client.
Client in trust.
We open an account for client in trust.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what do we do?
We credit the 3,000 with the narration correspondent.
We credit correspondent. Yes. So we are done with number 2. Not good. So we are done with step number 2.
Yes.
Can we go to number 3?
Yeah.
Yes.
What does step number 3 deal with?
With costs.
Costs. How much is the total of the costs, and how do we deal with these costs?
The total of the costs, I got 940, sir.
940.
I also got 940.
940.
Right. So everybody, where do we record these costs?
On the trust journal.
On the trust journal. How do we record costs on the trust journal?
We debit client.
Debit client, credit correspondent.
We debit client with 940 and
Yes.
credit correspondent
With 940.
with 940.
Yes.
Right. And what is our narration?
Cost.
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 Cost. Is that all we do?
No, we need to post to the
No,
ledger.
we post to
We
the
need to
ledger.
post to the ledgers. Which ledgers are we posting to?
Corresponding
To the
Trust ledger.
Trust ledgers, not so.
yes.
Client, what do we do?
We debit the client
We debit the client with how much?
with 940.
With 940.
Yes.
And our narration?
Correspondent.
Correspondent. 940. And then correspondent?
We credit.
We credit narration?
Cost.
Cost. How much?
940.
940. Are we done? Number 3?
Yes.
Can we go to number 4?
Yes.
What do we deal with then?
With the fees.
Our fees made up of?
The correspondent fees plus VAT at 15%.
The allowances given to us by the correspondent on fees and VAT, not
Yes.
right. How much, or rather, where do we record this?
On the fees journal.
On the fees journal. Why on the fees journal?
Because there are non-cash transactions.
Non-cash transactions, but why on the fees journal and not on the trust journal?
Yes, the fees journal deals with fees.
Because fees are dealt with on the fees journal. How do we record on the fees journal?
We debit the correspondent.
Correspondent, why correspondent? So we record the correspondent only.
The fees and the VAT.
The fees and the VAT. How much is our fee?
200.
200.
Debit or credit?
We debit
Credit.
the correspondent.
We credit the fees.
Oh, the fees, yes.
And the VAT?
We credit the VAT as well.
With how much?
With 30.
With
30
30.
VAT.
What else do we do?
We add.
We add. And
Yes.
what is the total?
230.
What do we do with it?
We debit the
We debit.
correspondent.
We debit the correspondent. Is that all we do?
No, we narrate.
Narrate.
What is our narration?
Fees.
1/3 allowance received.
See,
Is that all?
post to ledgers.
Post to ledgers. Which ledgers are we posting to?
Correspondent in business.
Eh?
Correspondent in business.
Business ledger. So we'll have an account for the correspondent in business, as well as account for fees and VAT. What do we do with the correspondent?
Debit.
Debit how much?
230.
Narration,
Half share. 1/3 allowance release.
yes, 1/3 allowance received, or simply fees plus VAT? And then on the fees,
We credit fees.
we credit fees. How,
Narration is correspondent in business.
how much?
200.
Narrating
200. Correspondent in business.
correspondent in business. What else?
Credit the VAT.
Credit is how much?
30.
Narration,
Correspondent in business.
yes. Is that all? Are we done now?
Yes.
Right. So we are done with our step number 4. Can we go to number 5?
Yes.
What does number 5 deal with?
Transfer.
Transfer. Do we know how much is due to us and if it is available in funds?
We must determine it.
We must determine it. How much is due to us?
30.
How much?
It's 230.
230.
Is it available?
Yes.
How much is available? Look at the corresponding part. How much?
What did you say?
How much?
$3,000.
710 is available.
How much? How much is available? Mula,
Sir, I can't hear you properly. You're breaking.
how,
Yes, you can hear
how
you.
much is available in trust?
It's 710, sir.
Yeah?
710. 710.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the collected amount minus the credited amount from the trust cash book.
No, it's 3,000.
No.
Look, credit side minus debit side on the corresponding
Yes.
Yes,
The
sir.
remaining is 230.
Yes.
No,
Where do you get
700.
710?
Where do you get 710 from?
I don't
Yes.
understand where.
Where do you get 230 from?
From
The
subtracting
230. We
side
have,
with the debit side.
One person at a
yeah,
time.
we have trust cash of 2,290 and the cost of 940. They all made 3,230. On the credits, on the debit side, we had 3,000. So we take the 3,230 minus 3,000. It's 230. The remaining is 230.
Wait. On the debit side we have 3,000.
Yes.
Uncle Sam.
On the
Yes.
debit
And
side,
then
on the credit side, how much do you have?
You add the 2,290. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and the cost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are we all together now?
Yes, sir.
So we agree on 230.
Yes.
Yes.
So fine. So there's 230 in trust. And how much is due to you?
230.
Do you have sufficient funds in trust to cover what is due?
Yes.
Yes.
So we can proceed with the transfer journal, not so?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So I'm opening a new page here for transfer journal. And we are transferring from correspondent in trust to correspondent in business. So debit correspondent in trust with 230 and credit in business with 230. Not so.
Yes.
And then from there, where do we go?
Transfer post to ledgers.
You narrate first.
We narrate, and what do we say in narrating?
Transfer of allowance.
Transfer of 1/3 allowance. Transfer of 1/3 allowance. Is that all?
No.
Where do we go?
We post to ledgers.
Post to ledgers. Correspondent in trust, what do we do?
Debit.
Debit how much?
230.
Narration.
Correspondent in business.
Correspondent in business. And then correspondent in business, what do we do?
Credit.
Credit how much?
230.
Narration.
Correspondent in trust.
Correspondent in trust. Why don't we close this account? Can we close it? Correspondent in business? The same value on both sides, not so?
Yes.
230. 230. Can't we also close correspondent in trust?
We can.
Does it not have the same value on both sides?
It does.
3230 on both sides. All right. So what do we do to finalize the transfer process?
You must take out the money in the trust cash book. It must be transferred now. We credit the trust cash book. The money must go out.
And what do we say?
Transfer to business cash book.
to business cash book.
Yes. How much?
230.
And where do we go? Where else do we go?
The money must come into the business cash book. We must record in the business cash book.
Our narration.
It's trust book. Trust cash book.
Extra cash book. 230.
Yes.
Right. Are we done now?
Yes.
Oh,
No.
What is left?
Must
the
account to our
remaining
client.
We must now account to our client, ne?
Yes.
I'm numbering my pages on the board, eh? So you will see which one came first. All right, why don't you pay your client at once?
Yes, you have to pay the client 2,060 rand.
There's some money in your client's account in trust. How much?
You have to pay the client
Sir, can you
2,060
please
rand.
repeat what you just said?
I'm saying, can't we just pay our client at once because there is money in our client's account?
Yes, we can.
Sir,
Yeah.
I think we can't because when we are accounting to the client, we have to show them that there were no allowances involved.
Yes, we are not dealing with our client. Remember, the collection was done on behalf of our client. Do you remember that the collection was done
Yes.
by the correspondent? Costs amounting to 940 were deducted from the 3,000. If you look at your client's account in trust, there is some money reflected there as being due to your client. Do you see, Skogot?
Yes, sir.
How much? Look at client's account in trust.
It's and on the you mean on the credit side or on the debit side?
Go to your client's account in trust.
Yes, I'm there.
Yes.
Or the
There's an
940.
amount on the credit side and on the debit side. You see?
There is 940 on the debit side and there's 3,000 on the credit side.
Yes. Meaning that your client had 3,000 and 940 was taken out. You see?
Yes. Yes.
So what is remaining in your client's account after the 940 was taken out?
2,060.
So that is due to your client.
Okay. So we can
Not an allowance. It's money belonging to your client.
Now I was answering your question, that one where you were asking us if we should immediately pay our client or not. So
I did not hear you.
I was answering the question where you had asked us if we should immediately pay our client or not. So I was saying no, we can't because we have to show the client that there were no allowances in our statement of our statement of account.
Yes, we do not have to show the allowances, but what we're paying now has nothing to do with allowances. We are simply paying client what is due to them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
All right. 2060, we credit the trust cash book and we say paid client 2060. That is 2060. And then you debit the client's account and your narration will be and the amount is 2060. To close this account, 3,000, 3,000. So now you can draw a statement of account. Remember, we said the statement of account will not be different from the statement received from the correspondent, except that it will not have allowances. Do you remember? Right. Can we copy the corresponding statement so that we can send it to our client with minor adjustments? Can we?
Yes.
What is the first item? What is the first item? What is the first item on the statement?
Paid tracing agent.
Yes. Debit or credit?
Debit.
Debit. Number two? Number two? You have the statement with you there. That is the statement we were using.
Someone's fees.
Someone's fees.
Someone's fees.
Yes.
How much?
300.
Debit or credit?
Debit.
Debit. Right. What is next?
Paid sheriff.
No.
VAT at 15%.
Oh, VAT. No, sorry.
VAT at 15%. How much?
45.
Debit or credit?
Debit.
Debit. Next.
Paid sheriff.
Paid sheriff. How much? How much?
150.
150. Debit or credit?
Debit.
Debit. Next.
Debit.
Next.
Cash receipt.
Yes. Cash received. How much?
3,000.
Debit or credit?
Debit. Credit.
Credit. Credit 3,000. What else?
Collection commission.
Collection. How much?
300.
Debit or credit?
Debit.
Debit. What else?
VAT at 15%.
VAT at 15%. How much?
45.
45. Debit or credit?
Debit.
Debit. What else?
By EFT.
Between the debit side and the credit side, which side has a
Credit side.
credit side? So we will record 3,000, 3,000. You see the difference in balance figures between this statement and the one you received from the correspondent?
Sir,
Yes.
Yes.
Credit side minus debit side, what do you get?
$2,060.
And what do you say?
by EFT.
Yes. How much?
2060.
2060. Have you seen this amount somewhere?
Yes.
Where? Where did you
Client
see
and
it?
trust.
The payment to client in trust, not from.
Yes.
And where is this statement going? Where is this statement going?
To the client.
The client. So your accounts are in order. Any questions?
So what did you do with the cash receipt? How did you record it?
On the statement. It's on the credit side.
Yes.
Yes, you see it.
Okay. I can't see the bar. It's fine. Okay.
Zimba has distributed something just now. Any questions? Is there any question? Please ask me any question you may have so that we can close this part and go to another. Are you sure you have no questions? Right. Can we go to conveyancing transactions?
Yes.
Conveyancing transactions. Right. Conveyancing transactions. In conveyancing transactions, and I hope that you've shared this also amongst yourselves, eh? I've also made some notes on this as well. Have you shared this?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So you will see even the practical exercise I gave there is relevant, as well as the answer or solution given there. The change may be that we no longer use checks. So instead of a check, it will be an EFT, and that should not be a problem for you or to you. Right. Conveyancing transactions.
Sir.
Yes.
You spoke about a solution, right?
About what?
You spoke about a solution just now, that you gave us a practical exercise and a solution.
Yes.
I can only see the practical exercise. I can't see the solution.
As it? Okay. They will share with you. It means they only shared the practical exercise and not the solution. They will share the solution with you. In the alternative,